What's up, everyone? The PlayStation Showcase is right around the corner, so BK and I, what's up, BK? How you doing?
Hello, hello, hello.
BK and I are going to run through some predictions for y'all. We're going to talk about what we're likely to see at the showcase, as well as some of our own bold predictions.
Let's start off first. Bloodborne 2 and the Bloodborne remake.
I think, whoa. You know, let's slow down just a tad. Bloodborne 2, I don't know, or Bloodborne remake. That still seems like it's kind of out there. But there are a lot of other things that we do know are pretty likely. Do you want to get into it?
Oh yeah, I think up first, probably the most likely that we're going to see is some more insight to the PS5 Pro, because that's going to be dropping late next year. So I'm kind of curious to see what deets and specs we're going to get in the showcase.
Yeah, now would be the time for new hardware, right? That PlayStation 5 Pro, we've been hearing about it for what seems like forever. You know, the big PlayStation showcase would definitely be the time to make an announcement like that, or at least say something. Sony skipped 2022, and so now they've got a huge backlog of announcements and exciting things. PS5 Pro, I think, is a great pick. We also heard about that handheld that they're working on, though, right?
Don't remind me about the Vita that's not a Vita, okay?
Not Vita 2.
Just give me the real Vita 2, all right? Sony, what's going on?
What's frustrating about that is I remember the original Vita was like I'm not good at cards, but let's say like the Mercedes or like a Ferrari of like gaming handhelds. And then to kind of hear these rumors about a new PlayStation handheld in the works, having to be like always online and that sort of thing is just kind of a bummer, where I would really love to see Sony take a really another hard swing. Now that we've got Steam Deck, you know, rumors about the Switch 2 essentially coming out next year. And so you can't come in, you know, to this fight, this new handheld fight with just already these types of limitations I think are just going to turn people off right away.
And listen, I'll just use my phone. Like, I do not need to buy something that's going to be online the whole time when I already have that. All right, Sony, Get it together, honey.
Not much else to say about hardware there. Let's move on to, I think, what everybody cares about, which is just big, huge Sony exclusives. Let's talk about games, or we'll talk about third party too. What do you got first on your list of what you think we're gonna see?
First coming up on the list, the showcase is actually pretty meaty now that I think about it. I know a lot of games have been teased recently, but we haven't seen like full trailers or release dates for a lot of these famous IP titles. Most specifically, The Last of Us Factions 2. That's that multiplayer game that's been coming out. We've seen some details, but no release date, and it's time.
Yeah, I was really expecting to see something about Factions at the end of the HBO series that came out. Instead, they used that time to promote the Last of Us Part 1 PC port. They rushed to get that thing out, then it blew up in their face. But now it's time for Factions, right? And we also know that Naughty Dog is working on something else behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, they've been cooking up something very interesting, a cool new project. Theories say that it's a fantasy-based series, but I'm holding out for maybe a new Jack and Daxter, you know what I'm saying? Like, can a girl dream, Evan?
Is there any credibility to that at all, do you think? I imagine if Naughty Dog took something on like that, they would like give it to a different studio and then kind of work closely with them, or have you heard anything about new Jack? It doesn't seem likely to me.
It's still unconfirmed, but it's when these developers start using these words like really cool, beloved franchise, and you go, oh, like what could you mean? What could you mean? So I'm holding strong. If it's not a fresh new IP, that better be the game they revisit, or I'm gonna have problems.
All right, moving on. We also know Death Stranding 2 is in the works. We know Hideo Kojima's got something going on over there, plus a million other different things it seems like he's got his hands in, but I think people are really looking forward to another Death Stranding game.
Oh, I mean, we saw the teaser trailer earlier on, so we kind of know where the story is going to take us, but we haven't seen if there's going to be any gameplay changes, what the full story is going to involve, but I'm very excited. I've been seeing Kojima hanging out with a lot of horror legends out there on the interwebs, right? Hanging out with Jordan Peele, friends with Guillermo del Toro, so like, we know that Death Stranding does a lot of celebrity crossovers, cameos. This could be something that breaks the internet.
And how likely do you think it's going to be at the showcase? You think it's for sure we're going to see it?
That's a heavy hitter. Honestly, I would have to say, if you don't show just any true gameplay trailer, PlayStation Showcase is going to be a miss for me.
I know Kojima takes a really long time to work on his games too, right?
Again,
I'm not holding my breath.
You're not wrong. I mean, let's be honest. We could probably wait another year and a half before we see a fraction of a trailer in its glory. But a tease has kept me going for this long. I think my body's ready to know a little bit more, just to keep me waiting longer.
Well, if you don't get that, at least we know almost certainly that we're going to see Spider-Man 2. We have to at this point, right? Marvel Spider-Man 2 has got to be there.
I can't wait. I mean, again, the Spider-Man franchise has just been so good and like a staple when it comes to quality games in PlayStation. So I'm ready, and I've done playing the heck out of Miles Morales as well. So like, give me Spidey.
Great
Come
game.
on, Venom. Let's go, baby.
Well, how do you think the single player is going to work? Is it going to be like a GTA 5 situation where it's switching between these 3 characters in real time? Do you think it's just going to go by story beats where you kind of play through the single player campaign and then there's going to be like a Peter section, a Miles section? And do we see a Venom section maybe? I don't know.
I'm hoping for a Venom section. If it's going to be story based like that, Evan, I'd be fine. But I'd like to see what they tried to do with Gotham Knights, but executed well, which is kind of being able to switch as different characters and like a hybrid between the two. And multiplayer. I'm still waiting for that. You know, I can hold out hope. Okay, it could be a patch. Maybe.
I think if I had to say, I'd say no playable Venom. Sony first-party studios kind of keep it tight. I think what we see actually end up seeing is something like what we see in God of War Ragnarok and God of War, where you have like this kind of buddy system, kind of issuing commands in real time and then switching things off that way. Maybe that's where I would go.
I mean, that's a big trend right now. We've seen a lot in the latest Star Wars Jedi Survivor as well, having that ally kind of tagging in. I'm down for it. I just want to see multiple Spideys on screen. All right, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm also looking forward to what I think we'll get a trailer for in the showcase, which is God of War Ragnarok DLC, baby.
Really?
I feel like it. I mean, it was such a hit. I feel like radio silence after the success is a little odd for me. I'm ready for a DLC.
What do you think a DLC for God of War Ragnarok entails? Do you think it's just like maybe some kind of different mode or something like that? What is it for you? What would you be looking for?
I'm a fan of optional boss battles and increased difficulty in games that are very open world. I mean, I just got done bodying the heck out of Burning Shores for Horizon Forbidden West, and it was a lot of fun getting introduced to a whole new area and new mechanics and new mounts and things like that. I would just love to add more life into God of War Ragnarok. I feel like it was just such a great and captivating game. For its shelf life to end so quickly is a little weird for me. I feel like not doing God of War Ragnarok DLC is like a missed opportunity in my opinion.
Yeah, but you know, also those Sony Santa Monica devs got to get started on the next thing that's big and huge and grandiose, and that takes time.
No, you're right. You're right. And the Santa Monica studios has been working on a lot of stuff recently. Apparently, there's this new IP in the works. Maybe sci-fi, maybe fantasy. So if they're focusing on that, you know what? I understand. You know what?
A New Order game. Let's go.
Okay, let's get it.
I'll be ready for it. Can I ask you, do you like horror games?
I'm a fan, even though I'm a scary cat. Why do you ask?
Because we've got the kind of reemergence of all of these horror games this year. You know, we had the Dead Space remake. We've seen the trailer for the Silent Hill 2 remake. And likely, I think we're going to see more of that game at the showcase, right?
I sure hope so, because you can't just be teasing Silent Hill anything without following up, okay? Like, Silent Hill fans are hungry, all right? Give it to us.
Yeah. And there's been some talk about, like, Konami coming back in a bigger way, right? And I think there's even been some talk about them being at the showcase. Have you seen anything about it?
Yeah, I've actually seen some really solid reports about Konami locking in for the showcase and really bringing out some good titles. There's talks about Metal Gear Solid 3 remake coming out, getting to see some stuff like that. I'm holding out hope for...
Not confirmed yet.
Not confirmed.
Right, not
confirmed. But, I mean, there's 3 titles we're hoping Konami brings, right? That's definitely one of them. And maybe a surprise Castlevania could be cool.
Don't do that to me. Don't give me...
Like, the success of the anime was so strong. The animated feature on Netflix did really well. A mainstream audience is now aware of the franchise. It could make sense to see a new Castlevania game or kind of refreshing ones that have existed, bringing them back to PS5. I don't know. I'm holding out for something in the tug from Konami.
And just for context, what's been going on at Konami now is that they've been opening up their IPs for pitching, for other developers to come in and pitch them on, specifically this, they've confirmed this with Silent Hill, that they've opened up pitches to other developers to come in, pitch Konami a really good Silent Hill game, and then they'll greenlight those projects. So there's a couple of those in the works. You have to imagine they're doing that for other franchises like Castlevania as well. One of my favorite franchises. Would love to see it at the show. But again, that hope will crush me if it doesn't. If it doesn't
I know.
come, so I try to guard my heart.
I was like, I don't want to get your hopes up, but like, I'm a big fan of like shooting for the stars here. But there are some things that are a little bit more attainable. That being the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, part 2 is what I call it.
Yeah.
Part 2. I mean, come on, we've done our waiting. All right, just give it to us already.
I'm very interested to see where they're going to go with the story. It's third party, but PlayStation's been shelling out the big bucks to keep those Square Enix games exclusive. Very likely we're going to see something about Final Fantasy VII Remake, Rebirth, or Part 2, as well as a trailer for Final Fantasy 16, like a launch trailer or like a final gameplay trailer. That game comes out in June around that time, so we might see something then.
I'm excited. I mean, you said Square Enix, and I'm like, hey, maybe we get Kingdom Hearts 4 stuff. That could be cool, Like maybe Kingdom Hearts 3.5 days or whatever port, 358.5 days.
That last Kingdom Hearts teaser trailer was wild. Sora in the city.
Insane. Like, you can't just give us that and then radio silence, all right? Like, I need Easter eggs. I need forums. I need secret codes. Something to time me over, okay? I'm losing it here, Evan.
I'm not a huge Kingdom Hearts person, but I pay attention to it, just like as part of the job or whatever. And even that trailer, I was like, what are they doing with this? This is wild. So I'm excited for you, really.
Seriously, I'm a big time Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm also a big time fighting game person.
Let's go.
The trailers have been hanging out on the internet very recently have been teasing the heck out of the latest Mortal Kombat. And MK has a big history with Sony. I feel like what great timing to put out a teaser on Twitter and then say nothing about a follow-up. So I'm kind of holding my hope out to see the full trailer reveal for Mortal Kombat 12-1 is what they're calling it.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of teases about time.
I think it's Mortal Kombat 1 for the third time, question mark.
I love it.
Look, the cycle repeats itself, right?
At this point, you could do literally anything in the Mortal Kombat lore, and I think people would love it. There's nothing that would surprise me anymore, so it's probably hard for them to keep turning things up to 11 or 12 in this case. I'm excited about seeing a new Mortal Kombat game for sure, and it does seem very likely it'll be at the showcase.
Yeah, it makes sense there, and I feel like you need to show a lot of variety when we're talking showcases like this.
For sure. We did talk about Insomniac with Spider-Man 2 a little bit, but we didn't talk about their other project or projects. Wolverine, right, was a big teaser we got at the last PlayStation showcase. Do you think we see anything from that game?
I'm not really sure if we're going to see more, even though it makes sense. I've read that they're a little behind on production there, so that trailer that we got earlier on, I believe at State of Play, is probably what we're going to be hanging on to for a while, unfortunately. And that being because it actually looks like Insomniac is working on a new IP. They have put out some job postings for people who have experienced shipping at least one AAA game with a multiplayer component and a demonstrable understanding of art direction for multiplayer games. So could be that Insomniac is following that directive that Sony has placed in pushing out multiplayer games in the next couple years or so. So they could be more distracted on that and pushing that out and kind of leaving Wolverine to the back burner for the time being.
From what I know about Insomniac, there's basically 3 main teams, I believe, or 2 main teams. So they've got a studio here in Burbank, like in LA, and then they've got an office in North Carolina, and then they have like a smaller VR team that I know also works on things. But with the success of Spider-Man, you have to imagine that they're ramping up staff and production on a lot of different things. So who could say?
The only thing that the rumors did confirm, unfortunately, is that studio's probably not returning to the Resistance franchise for the foreseeable future. Gonna pour one out for Resistance Fallen Man real quick.
That hurts. Yeah, I think that franchise did a lot of work for Sony in the early days, especially for PlayStation 3. So it's a bummer to see it not get much more love, but I kind of also understand it. It's a bummer, but yeah, I get it. When you're dealing with Disney IP now, why would you go back to something like Resistance, I guess?
No, it makes sense. That's how you're going to get new people in. And I guess kind of speaking of a game that got me back into PlayStation as an Xbox girly, it has to be the game Ghost of Tsushima. As a big time Assassin's Creed fan, Ghost of Tsushima kind of did what Assassin's Creed didn't. And I fell in love with it. And there are some big talks that we're going to see information on Ghost of Tsushima 2 in the upcoming PlayStation showcase. I'm curious your thoughts on that, Evan, because I'm a big fan, but I want to know, is this probable? Am I tripping?
No, absolutely not. They've been working on that game for a while, almost certainly. The sales popped off for Ghost of Tsushima, almost certainly guaranteeing a sequel. We've heard rumors about that happening. I'd be very surprised if it's not, and very surprised if we don't see anything at this showcase, at least a teaser, maybe even just a title card or something, would go a really long way. It would be really cool to actually see them take what they learned from Ghost of Tsushima and make a new game. And that game also had a multiplayer component as well. You got to imagine that, if this is a kind of a larger directive from Sony to incorporate more multiplayer into all these different games, we're going to see more of that for sure. I think it's very likely we see Ghost of Tsushima 2 at the 2023 showcase.
I'll just take some reeds blowing in the wind and Ghost of Tsushima 2. Like, that's all you have to give me and I'll be satisfied. That's it.
Yeah, that would do it.
Oh, but I do think we have two other titles though that are actually going to be a lot more substantial when it comes to presence at the PlayStation Showcase. One being, I guess, a deep cut for people, which is from Supermassive Games, the Dark Pictures Anthology series. Their latest game that they're working on is called Directive 8020, and it was teased at the end of their most recent game. So I'm excited to see if we'll get a full trailer here rather than a teaser. And I know the Anthology games are pretty big on my list, and I've seen them work with PlayStation quite frequently when they come out with their titles, at least on launch. So this could be a place where we see a little bit of a trailer. I think it makes sense, and if Supermassive has a presence here at the PlayStation Showcase, as an indie fan, I'd be very excited.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think there's a lot of people excited about the Anthology series in general. It's incredible to see how popular it's become. But there is one other huge game we haven't really talked about, and a huge developer who had a banner year last year. From Software, obviously working on Armored Core 6. We got a teaser in the past, and I think it would be a good time, considering that game is supposed to come out in August, that we see another trailer, from obviously a third-party developer here. But it would be a huge get for any showcase to be able to show Armored Core 6, the next game out from the makers of Elden Ring, right? That's a huge, huge win. What do you think the chances are we see something like that?
Oh, they gotta be high. Like, honestly, I feel like that title right there is like, give me a big bang, over-the-top trailer, launch trailer, get me excited again. If I don't know what Armored Core is, I better know at the end of the showcase, in my opinion.
It is an interesting thing. Armored Core is a well-beloved series. It has a small fan base, but a very dedicated fan base, in the same way that Demon's Souls did, right? And we haven't had, Armored Core as a series hasn't had that Demon's Souls to Dark Souls moment, and that's what Armored Core 6 is setting up to be here. So I'd be very interested to see it at the show. I think it's pretty likely that we do see at least something.
I was also going to bring us to something that I think we're going to see here, and that's going to be from the studio Bungie, right? That was recently acquired by PlayStation here.
So yeah, the reason that Sony buys big studios or renowned studios is so that they can make first-party titles. So it would make a lot of sense that Bungie would be working on a new IP, which we heard rumors about in the past, in addition to Destiny. But I'm not quite convinced, after that merger happens, I'm not sure, what do you think that they favor? Do you think they go for a Destiny 3, which they know could net the money? We know the story's ending. Or do you think they lean more into that first party exclusive? So
there are two rumors kind of going on right now, and some are a little bit more confirmed than others. Well, the biggest one is Bungie is kind of leaning away from a Destiny 3, but is still exploring the Destiny universe. So there's talks of a Destiny mobile FPS game coming out, as well as a potential animated show. Again, I don't know how believable those rumors are, but I think it would
say likely.
Likely.
So many video game adaptations.
Yeah, the success of a lot of video game adaptations have been very, very good if we talk about things like Arcane or Castlevania, like we mentioned earlier. And not to mention, rumor kind of backed with a recent acquisition of someone who did work with Riot, who did work with Arcane, now working with Bungie. So, could see that in the future. But there is another game that they're working on. Bungie is taking the helm on a new IP. It's called right now Matter, set to be another multiplayer action game. I'm thinking maybe it's an MMO. It's going to be live service, but I say MMO because I feel like Destiny always was going to be it and then stopped.
It is in the same vein. When you if somebody says Destiny 2 or Destiny's an MMO, I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah,
sure.
I just give it to them. It's not in the same way that World of Warcraft is, but in terms of the mechanics of the game, the kind of progression systems and things, it does operate very much like an MMO. So it'd be interesting to see them go further, but I'm not sure if even the capabilities of the PlayStation 5 would get them all the way there. I think you'd probably see maybe something similar to a Destiny 2 with this new game called Matter. in that it kind of operates in the same, but maybe you can like have larger parties or more players involved with these raid events and stuff at the same time. I would guess.
I'm holding out hope. There's been a lot of MMOs that have been ported to console really successfully. I've been enjoying Black Desert Online, Neverwinter still going strong. Lost Ark has been great, and like these mobile games too are kind of taking over with Honkai Star Rail. So there is this realm where it's a little bit more MMO-y, a little bit different. I'd be curious to see what Bungie does. I think their take on live service is strong. They know their community, so for them to kind of get the support from Sony, we could expect whatever new title they're working on is going to be fire, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and it's like great that you brought up Bungie. I do feel like it's maybe just a tiny bit too soon, but yeah, I think definitely keep your eye on that space. All this info you've brought about these new projects that Bungie's working on, super great. There is another studio that I am excited to hear more about, and that is Housemarque. I loved Returnal. It was an amazing game. I think it just was incredible on a lot of different levels, and maybe didn't get the respect it deserved because it was very difficult, so I think people put it away pretty fast. But Housemarque has shown themselves to be a great studio, and they've moved from basically like simple arcade games to something more like Returnal, and so I'm very, very interested to see what their next project is.
I'm very excited as well. I feel like Returnal did something that like most shooters would never dare. I mean, making a roguelike shooter is a very interesting take. So to see that studio on something else, something different, a new IP, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to see what they've got. And it makes sense that we might see a little teaser for what they've been working on for a while at the showcase.
Since Returnal was the last thing we got from them, they did like a nice DLC, which added co-op gameplay and a bunch of other stuff. It seems like they've reached a pretty good stopping point with that studio, and at least would be in pre-production for whatever's next. It might be too early to see gameplay or something like that, but for sure, I think we get a teaser from Housemarque. Moving on, I have a bit of a blind spot. I was curious if you know anything about what's going on with Firesprite.
Oh yeah, Firesprite is actually the studio known for Persistence and Horizon Call of the Mountain, which has been some pretty cool VR stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But I've heard that they've been working on a story-driven horror game and a multiplayer shooter coming out from them. So 2 new titles, not much known on those 2 titles, but being able to see a teaser for either of those could be good.
Maybe it might even be too early to see anything there from Firesprite, but I don't know. Maybe we could.
If they're holding off on Firesprite, then Evan, hear me out. What about Bluepoint Games?
Yes.
I feel like we're going to see something from them, right?
A lot of remake, a lot of remaster work, right? Bluepoint Games now synonymous with those types of big beloved projects that they come in and then they put in their work to help new games like the Demon Souls remake live up to their former glory with like a new sheen, right?
So what you're saying is Bloodborne remake, right? Is what you're saying? Because it sounds like to me that Bluepoint Games is just the perfect studio to remake Bloodborne or remaster it. Like,
I don't disagree, and there's a ton of people who I think feel very much the same way.
Actually, I've been reading rumors and articles on Bluepoint working on a new IP, not a remake, a fresh game, a new project right now. There's actually a quote here: "Our next project, we're working on original content right now. We can't talk about what it is, but that it's the next step in the evolution for us." So it's sounding like to me maybe they're going to take all the experience that they have remastering and working with all these other games and kind of applying them to their own original title. I think that could be huge for the studio. If they can prove to make original IP games fire and remakes, we're probably going to see a lot of Bluepoint in the future.
Yeah, you would expect that's kind of the dream of some of these studios, that they do manage to break out of that mold. Like they get work doing remake and remaster work for these big publishers, and then eventually they get a shot at making their own game. And I'd be really interested to see what that looks like from Bluepoint. There is another studio we should bring up, which was in the news recently, and that's Media Molecule. They recently announced that they're ending support for Dreams, which puts them on the market for the announcement of a new project in the future. This is the Little Big Planet studio. This is the Dream studio, where they're making these impressive tools for game makers and making games and having these platforms where you can share these different experiences. So that is a big one to look out for. Not sure if we're going to see anything at all at this showcase from them, since that news was just really recent.
Yeah, and I'm starting to feel like all these like smaller studios or studios that are very early on, that they might need to have a separate showcase, especially Wildlight Entertainment. It's actually a new studio from ex-Respawn, ex-Naughty Dog, ex-Santa Monica devs all coming together working on a new IP. This is stuff I'm excited to maybe get just nuggets of information during the showcase time.
That's a great point. I think in the last 2 years, there's been 3 new LA studios that have splintered off from larger AAA studios like Naughty Dog and like Respawn. So we could see some real wild cards. And that's what's the most exciting usually for me for any showcase. You know, we're always paying attention to the news. So we always kind of got our thumb on the pulse about what we're probably going to see. But I'm always looking for that one game that I've never heard of before that's just going to like blow my mind. And with that in mind, let's move away from things that we kind of already know that we're going to see. And let's talk about hopes and dreams. What do you think people are hoping and dreaming to see at the PlayStation 2023 showcase?
Hold on, let me take out my list, okay? Where's my notebook? No, reaching for the stars? Listen, Evan, hear me out. The success of multiverses, very strong, right? Okay. Isn't there a PlayStation game that's pretty much the same? That's right, I'm talking about PlayStation All-Stars 2, baby!
Wow, that's a pretty deep cut. I don't think Robotoki's around anymore, the studio that made that game. I mean, I could see a world where Sony wants to get in on that platform brawler action, but I don't know. That seems like a burnt bridge to me a little bit. The game didn't do well, but it does have a ton of love. So it would be cool to see that. But what else you got?
Okay, what else I've got? Here we go. Evan, hear me out. It's almost November, which is time for our typical rotation of Call of Duty. This year, right? It's Treyarch. It's about their time. And I'm thinking, since it's the last year with the Sony exclusive partnership deal, that they're gonna announce the latest Call of Duty here and really milk that last year of having that partnership. Wow. So hopes and dreams is maybe zombies only. Oh, no. Treyarch, Call of Duty, multiplayer, like we don't have a Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood just kind of doesn't exist, Redfall wasn't what we wanted, like fill that void with Treyarch's Call of Duty Black Ops zombies only.
I think people would eat that up. We could make a whole video about what's about to happen with Call of Duty and what's going on there. I know there's been a lot of talk about Treyarch working on a zombies like specific type of title or game or mode, but yeah, we'd have to just start digging into the archives and put in on our news cap and start doing a lot of research to kind of articulate when that would happen. But I'm not holding my breath for that one, but that's really fun. I'm
praying for it. I mean, like, okay, maybe not a zombies only, but seeing a little bit of the new Call of Duty is kind of probable. It makes sense to me. But definitely more probable than, again, me hoping for Kingdom Hearts 4 anything. Or
yes, we did talk about
358 half days full remake, like just anything Kingdom Hearts would be great.
Sora in the city. Yeah. What a nice boy.
A lot of my other D-Cubs are just wanting to see franchises revisited. I feel like we're just in the era of nostalgia bait, unfortunately, and I'm a sucker for it. So just give it to me right. Bring me back Heavenly Sword. What about Killzone? Can I get Infamous reboot? I would love a Gravity Rush 3.
That's a good one. Those first 3 are all good, but Gravity Rush 3, you got my heart with that. Like,
fire.
Bring Vita 2 back with Gravity Rush 3 launch. Let's go. That's an announcement.
I'm like, we haven't seen a Sly Cooper in a millennia. Again, I said Jack and Daxter earlier, but like, let's go. Like, it's time. If you're gonna bring back an old franchise, I feel like now's the time. We're ready. I'm prime age. Sign me up, baby. Okay?
Yeah, for me, it's just all hopes on like anything Castlevania. I would love to see.
Just praying
anybody
for
do. Yeah, anything new.
Konami's presence here is going to be strong. It has been confirmed. I mean, I was been hoping that we might see a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh! People be forgetting that Yu-Gi-Oh! The card game is owned by Konami. So this is a really deep talk, but like, hear me out. What if we did like Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's Hearthstone Battlegrounds, or like TFT or Marvel Snap? It's a live service model. It's exactly what they want, and none of those games are on console. I'm just spitballing here, Evan. A girl can dream.
There is no other PlayStation Showcase prediction video you're gonna find where somebody says Yu-Gi-Oh, okay? We've got it here. We've got the bold predictions. You've got the hopes and dreams, the biggest wishes. Thank you for that. BK. That's pretty much going to do it for us. You've heard what we think is going to be at the show. You've heard some of these hopes and dreams. Mine, personally, I'm really hoping to see more Armored Core 6, and hopefully that game doesn't get delayed. If it does, whatever. But hopefully we get to see more of that. That's my big hope. What's your biggest, BK?
Biggest hope, again, Bloodborne. I said at the top, I'm going to stay until the day I die. Right. And I don't even like Dark Souls like that. Y'all can flame me in the comments, okay? But Bloodborne is just such a great game, and I feel like the people have been asking for it, and give the people what they want. Even if it comes in 5 years, I will just hang on to a thread if you tell me in production. But I love hanging out and chatting and speculating with you, Evan. It's been an awesome time here. I feel like we should do more of these.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we can. We'll have more time to do it. Thank you, everybody who's been watching at home. Let us know in the comments your big predictions for the PlayStation Showcase or what you want to see the most. It's been really fun to do this, but we got to go make more videos. So we'll catch you on the next one. For more video game news and updates, stay tuned right here to Inside Gaming.
See ya.